Hey, what's up, Elyson? We're back today with another interview. These interviews that we do, we interview local business owners. They live here in Elyson and they own a business. You see them at HEB, you see them at Target, walking around town, and they're your next door neighbor. So we get to a little bit of time to learn how they got into owning their own business, their entrepreneurship story, and dive into that as the stories here. And if you do know somebody that is an entrepreneur, we'd love to get a chance to interview them as well and how they got their business started. Please reach out to me. If you run into maybe someone else you're talking to and you want to refer one of these Elyson businesses, we have all of these interviews on our YouTube channel. Feel free to click the link there in the video and find us as well. Feel free to share those with your neighbors. So again, the whole idea, supporting local businesses, creating a sense of community. If you see these people in these videos, feel free to say hey in the grocery store and tell them that you love their video as well. So with that being said, today we have Mr. Angel Rodriguez with us.
Yes, sir.
Angel, I know you as a plumber.
Yes.
I know you as an Elyson resident. But tell us, who is Angel Rodriguez? Who was Angel Rodriguez? And how did you end up in Elyson?
Elyson. All right, Aaron. Well, man, where do I start? There's so much. I'm 26 years old. So we actually just moved into Elyson back in January.
Okay.
We were going back and forth through, living out in property and my parents for my mom, and then to my mother-in-law because we had a baby, so fourth baby. So
all
it's
right.
Getting the family bigger.
Was that this year?
This year, yes.
Oh wow. Okay.
No, actually, I take it back. Last year.
Okay.
This year he's going to be 1 year.
Okay.
So
very good.
staying busy with that. But how I started as a plumber, pretty much grew up into it. My dad was a plumber. He got here around 16, 17. He landed in plumbing. He
Awesome.
kind of stuck with it for up to now. He's
Awesome.
50 years old.
Okay.
I went to school, graduated high school, went to college for a few years, and tried to go to college to kind of run away from plumbing.
Okay.
Grew up with it. Every summer was going to go work with my dad in plumbing.
Yeah.
Hated it. It was out in the heat. So all that, just hard work.
Hard work.
Yeah. And
Get
as
your
a kid,
hands dirty.
yeah,
right?
yeah. And as a kid, you're just trying to play around. You're not really
Sure.
trying to do plumbing.
Yeah.
But after I went to college and everything, I was still doing plumbing and everything here and there just to make money.
Okay.
And there was a point where I came to at a crossroads in between having to choose whether I continued in college or ventured off to go into the plumbing trade.
Okay.
So it was one had to give. I had to make a choice. And
What did you go to school for? Just curiosity.
so I was going for construction management, which I was still going to be working with plumbers, but it's basically being a builder for construction sites, like big commercial stuff.
Yeah, sure. You wanted to be essentially like a general contractor of sorts? Okay.
Well, yeah. I was going to be working like for a company that was going to hire me as a builder or a GC, which is a general contractor, and the plan was to manage the construction of like commercial buildings. It's what was interesting to me, but I kind of took a step back and started to look at weigh the pros and cons in each field.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, I was really going with that career because it's on paper seemed pretty good.
Sure.
Money wise, but then I kind of looked at the plumbing field as like everybody I knew that was plumbers and everything. A lot of them were making good money as well. So it was a tough decision because I had my dad, uncles that they had not gone to college and were making good money.
Sure.
And being immigrants, so
Yeah.
it was like, man, like if they can do it, I can even take it further
Why
out
not?
there. Yeah.
Right?
So that's kind of what the deciding factor for me. Ended up back in plumbing, even though I tried to run away from it.
Yeah.
Also, throughout the years with my dad and everything, I learned a lot in plumbing, so
Sure,
it
sure.
made it a lot easier for me to just kind of go with this trade.
Sure. When you started then working with your dad, how old were you? Like, do you remember going on your first job? Like,
So I have a lot of memories. He would take me a lot over the summer when I was very young, like probably 5, 6, 7. But it wasn't to actually work. It was just like, hey, just come with me.
Come along.
Yeah, tag along and check it out. Just to kind of spend some time.
That's good.
And I hated it because it was the heat. You know, I think about my friends, my sisters being at home just chilling and not working. I was like, man, I want to go do that. So, you know, I would get upset. I would argue with my dad.
Sure.
And it was always a tug of war. And then at the end, like, I realized there was just no choice. I was just going to have to go.
Yeah.
So I would go. It's funny. I would just stay in the truck just out of, you know, just being upset. And my dad would get mad too. So it was just a whole crazy side. But eventually, like, every year, like, you know, I picked something up. I mean, I wasn't like a professional or anything, but I picked up a lot of little things that, you know, helped out my dad, you know, in the long run.
Sure.
And then, but
how old were you when you started actually maybe doing some work with him?
I would say probably 14, 15 was whenever I was like, okay. 15, I remember so my freshman year in high school, I had gone out to a boarding school out of state in Michigan.
Okay.
Coming back, I was 15 in that summer break between freshman year and sophomore year.
Okay.
I went to go work with one of my cousins that had his whole like plumbing crew and everything running. And me being a 15-year-old over the summer, I went to go work with them. Yeah. I was making, you know, $500 a week. For me, that was a lot of money.
15 years old. That's a good bit of money.
Yeah. So same thing, like, I hated it, but because it was funny because he would live like a few blocks away from my parents' house.
Sure.
So every morning he would come by and pick me up, and there's no hiding from him either. So it just kind of plumbing chased me around like crazy.
Sure.
But yeah. So now been doing this for technically, I guess, on paper since I got my apprenticeship and everything. Yeah. I want to say I got mine at 16 or 18, one of those two. And the apprenticeship program is basically, it's not a program or anything, it's basically on paper where you start getting a license. So that's kind of where the clock starts.
So yeah, let's walk through this because I'm actually not quite as familiar with the whole plumbing education, licensing, apprenticeship, master, whatever. Like, how does that progress look like?
So you'll hear
become a plumber.
Yeah, you'll hear a lot about licensed plumber this, we have so many years, licensed plumber. So what that means is that, once you are a journeyman plumber, is pretty much, there is the highest level of license you can get, which is called the masters.
Okay.
But journeyman is pretty much where you stop. The masters you can go after if you want to build your own company, continue your education and stuff like that. But, once you get your journeyman is when you're technically considered a plumber.
Got it.
Because you can work on commercial, residential buildings, pretty much anything.
I see.
How
do you go about getting that journeyman's? Like, is it a long time or?
Yeah, it's pretty much the length of time it takes to get the journeyman is the same amount of time it will get you to get a 4-year degree in college.
Okay.
And you don't have to get into debt.
Okay.
So
you get paid while you do it. Right?
Exactly. So what I mentioned.
By the way, I think that's super huge, right? Because so many people, and I mean I'm one of these too. Okay, you go to college, you rack up a big bill of debt, right? And then you go to get a job and spend a whole lot of time paying off that debt.
Yeah.
And plumbers, from what I hear, they make decent money. Like it's a pretty decent career. You can make 6 figures as a plumber. And do that, right? So I think there's a lot to be said about actual manual trades, electricians, plumbers, so on and so forth. It's like maybe a job that so many people overlook, but yet has a huge career out there, and there's so much demand for it, right? I know I call a plumber because I know I make more expenses and more mess if I don't call a plumber.
It gets more expensive. You don't know what you're doing.
From true experience, trying to fix my sink, right? Okay, I don't do that. I'm gonna call a plumber and have a professional do it, right?
So That's huge. I've seen a lot. I've ran into a lot of homeowners that, they'll call me and give me no explanation. They just say, hey, I need a plumber. Okay, show up. And I walk into a middle of a mess, of them trying to fix something themselves, and it just goes horribly wrong. But so like you mentioned, you don't have to go into debt for, at least, I don't have any school debt for plumbing at all,
Okay.
you know?
Right. That's huge.
And yeah, and a lot of the plumbing guys I know, plumbers, they don't have any school debt either. So,
So they all start as apprentice,
yes,
which basically means what you're like.
it means so you have to fill an application. You get signed off by a master. If you're doing that, you're pretty much applying to a company to be an apprentice.
Okay.
They'll give you the form and everything.
Got it.
You're basically applying at a plumbing company as an apprentice, and they'll start that paperwork for you. All you have to do is basically hold your license, your apprenticeship license,
Sure.
and accumulate hours. So keep track of your hours. The company will also keep track of your hours, and it's not a whole classroom type setup thing. It's
I see.
a regular job. You
Go
go in,
out, do the job.
yeah, go out there, and you know, a lot of these apprentices start off as young kids, you know, straight out of high school because they
Okay.
don't want to go to college. So they start off, you know, 18, 19,
Okay.
and just show up on time,
Yep.
do what you're told,
Right.
and after 2 years, if you paid attention, you learn, and
Okay.
you work hard, you're making about, you know, $40,000-$50,000 a year, and
Okay.
that's what, you know, on average, what you'd be making coming out of college.
Out of college, right?
So, and
Yeah.
being debt free, it's on top of that, you'll also build up your tools and everything throughout the years.
Sure.
That's kind of my advice to younger kids now is like, if you don't want to go to college, it doesn't have to be plumbing. It can
Sure.
be any other trade. But
Yeah.
a lot of these trades are overlooked because, you know, like we were talking, it's not that pretty, you know, especially
Yeah.
plumbing. You're
Yeah.
dealing with a lot of sewage stuff and,
Sure.
and water and gas. But it's, the trades are, and I think it's because people don't realize maybe how important it is until a disaster happens, you know, and you need
Yeah.
electricity, you need power, you need water.
And that's when they
yeah.
call panicked.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and then that's how the apprenticeship works. After 2 years, you can go for your tradesman, which it's another type of license, plumbing license.
I see.
It's the next up after apprenticeship.
Okay.
And what that means is that you're allowed to work in residential houses only. So
I see.
you can only do houses, you know.
Got it.
Which makes a lot of money too, you know.
Yeah.
Whether it's working as an employee for a company or going as a contractor on your own.
Right. Are houses just simpler than like commercial in general?
The plumbing,
Is that why?
the plumbing is also whenever it gets to how much money you make with companies, the way they work and how they pay you it varies a lot too from company to company.
Yeah.
But what I've learned throughout the years is that the companies that pay the most for plumbers are companies like home service companies because you're dealing with homeowners directly. So
I see.
if they want to remodel their kitchen, you
Yeah.
know, they're willing to pay, then you know you can get a commission off of that and stuff like that.
I see,
So
I see.
there's more room for money to come in.
Okay.
Whereas if you're working with a new construction plumbing company
Yeah.
that just does plumbing for new construction houses, the builders, they already have a contract with them and everything. So
You're not really helping them build a business.
yeah. And as an employee, you're just there to kind of do a job,
Yep.
you know, clock in, clock out.
Got it.
So you have an hourly rate, or even that, like for me at the time, I had a salary job. So like, would I work 12 hours for 5 days?
Sure.
Or, you know, 8 hours for 5 days, I get
Yep.
the same check, you know, which, you know, for some might work, for others it might not work.
I see.
I remember for me, it didn't work. I always wanted to, you know, make more money. So,
Sure.
I went
Did you
from,
enjoy the people side of that business too, or what would you say is like? Because I imagine one is like an introvert's dream, where you just literally show up
Yeah.
and you leave, right? And you work all day, you don't talk to anyone, right?
Well, that's the other thing. So it's you'll learn to you'll learn to be a people's person
Okay.
because you deal with a lot of people, whether it's homeowners or builders.
They're not usually happy because they
yeah.
have to call you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Nobody's really happy when they have to call a plumber.
Yeah.
Because it's either you have a cloggage, you have a water leak, or a gas leak.
Yeah.
Or you have to remodel and it gets pricey, and then they're so upset, you know.
Okay.
So you definitely have to be a people's, you know, person. Have to communicate with people. A lot of what you'll find in the trades nowadays, because there's not a lot of young people going into them,
Okay.
is a lot of older guys there that are very old school, you know, the way they talk, different habits and everything. So you have a young kid who probably, the way, you know, the older guys are getting on them.
Sure.
And just telling them to hurry up, blah, 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 to work fast. And the work ethic is completely different too,
see.
So I think the rule of thumb is work hard, be on time, and it'll take you a long ways.
Good.
So
very good.
Yeah.
So you have your apprenticeship, you start, that takes 2 years. The next step then is the tradesman. That takes
after 2 years, you're eligible to apply and take the test. So you have to take a test and everything. There's like prep courses that you can take.
I see.
But
do you have like books or classes you need to take to study for that, or how does that
so
work?
they test you on on a lot of codes. So what you do is you grab there's like a different types of book. There's two books of codes for the state, and you just study them. You just kind of read through them, take notes.
Okay.
There's classes that you can look out there that are really good that they can prep you on it and will give you review courses and stuff like that before your test date, so they can get you ready. And it's guys that have been doing plumbing for years. They've been through the state, been kind of certified to give those courses.
Right.
So they help out a lot. And once you do that, I mean, the training course or the education course, it's not expensive compared to a school.
Sure.
It's probably at most like $500.
Okay, a few $100s.
Yeah,
easy.
and then it's 1 day or maybe 2 days, 8 hours long. But you just get a whole bunch of information, you get packets, and a lot of the stuff, probably say half of it you already know because you learn in the field.
Right.
So it's nothing new. It's
it.
more of terminology. Little things that you've never heard of before, like fittings, how they can go and they can't go. But once you take the course, you take the test for the tradesman, and you pass it, you get the license, and you automatically get a raise from the company. So you can go from $15, $16 an hour to 25 or even 30 if how they value you at the company. So it's
a good jump.
Yeah, a big jump.
Yeah.
After that, then you have to accumulate 2 more hours or 2 more years of hours.
I see.
To be eligible for your journeyman.
I see.
The journeyman is more similar test, but more questions on the written part.
Okay.
Because they'll test you on your skills on whether you can weld copper together or thread gas pipe. So it's more like a hands-on test. And then you have a paper test too, like a questions.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So much more tactical.
So on
and so forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so once you get your tradesman, after that you got 2 more years. So all in all, if you can go from your apprentice to your journeyman, and that takes just a total of 4 years to get your journeyman. And then after your journeyman, you can go up to get your master license. And really the only thing that allows you to do is to open up your own business, pull permits from the city, if you want to do a big project like, let's say, build a house, and you're trying to run a sewer line connected to the city, you have to have a permit, and the permit basically holds the master plumber, liable for the whole plumbing project.
Right, their name's on it basically if anything there, right?
Yes.
So when it comes to repairs and stuff like that, I imagine you don't need to pull a permit or anything, right? It's just, hey, replace and fix what you got there, and then So with each level of plumbing that you kind of go through, what is it that you can now do? Like apprenticeship, you can do nothing, just follow a line. Right?
So as an apprenticeship, being an apprentice, if you learn how to pull a toilet, replace a faucet, you can do those things, and any other plumber can as well. But as a young kid, starting off and you're an apprentice, those are side, little jobs you can do. Outside of your normal hour. So you can make a few $300-400 on the side just from replacing a toilet, installing a faucet. But you can't replace, if you learn how to do it, you may be able to replace a water heater, but there's more liability because then you need 2 guys to carry the big tank. There's sometimes part modifications that you have to do that if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you can either cause a leak or
so you're usually going to have somebody else with you there to do that a little bit higher level. So then the next level, what are the things that?
So the next level as a tradesman, you can do more of the water heater replacements. You can do rerouting water lines or drain lines. Technically on the paper, the restrictions for the apprentices, they can't touch any piping or any pipes. regarding to plumbing.
Mainly fixtures, basically.
Yeah, unless they have that plumber supervision, the licensed plumber supervision.
Teach them how to do it.
Yeah, so as long as the plumber's there, the licensed plumber's there overseeing the apprentice, then it's completely fine.
Okay.
But if there's no licensed plumber and the apprentice is cutting pipe and gluing pipe, that's a big no for for the state. Yeah.
Right.
So with the tradesman, you're allowed to, if you want to remodel your bathroom, move the toilet pipe from here to across the other restroom, you can.
Okay.
And same for the journeyman. The only difference is that you can do all those things, but in a commercial building. So like skyscrapers.
I see.
Daycares, anything that is commercial based. So.
And is the code really different for like commercial versus residential, or?
It varies a little bit. It doesn't vary.
You probably have like a lot higher pressure lines.
Yeah, that's the thing. So
consequences that can happen in
that
case.
Yeah.
Right?
So the codes are pretty much similar, but the scale of the plumbing, like it's a lot bigger scale. So for example, in a daycare, you have at least 6 toilets because of the kids, teachers, and all that. For a house, you have 3-4 toilets.
Yeah.
So the size of the plumbing goes up. So that's one thing to consider.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So yeah.
That's awesome. So I think the key thing there is like, if you go that route, instead of paying 30 to 60K to a school per year in college tuition, you get paid that while your peers are in school, and then you've already got moved up and become a plumber by the time they get out, and you're making a different pay grade, right? So that's pretty cool.
Yes.
For sure.
So the other thing too, once having your license, journeyman or even your master, which is what I'm about to get. I just applied to get my master's and everything, so I'm just waiting for the test date. So I'm a few weeks out, even maybe a month or 2 from getting my license.
Awesome. Very cool.
But I did recently just start my business out here.
Yeah.
Here in Elyson, I've been trying to focus more around the community.
Yeah.
Just because I figured, through all the years of me doing plumbing, like I started off doing it for the money, and chasing the money. And it's good money and everything. But now having a family, 4 kids, and a wife,
right.
It's not always about the money. It's the money.
Quality of life. Can you be at home, right?
Yes.
Did you do a lot of traveling in one of your previous roles?
Yeah. So there was time, almost a year, that I worked for contracting or as a contractor for plumbing, and it was what made me the most money.
Okay.
Over $100,000 and I was on the road from Sunday to Friday, Saturday catching up on sleep, and then back on the road from here within the state, but out of town, so Dallas, San Antonio. And the thing is, having 2 kids at home, your wife, and being pregnant, it's hard to kind of balance.
There is no balance, right?
There is no balance,
a lot of work.
So, So I think the breaking point for me was that my wife, she had like an allergic reaction to a medicine. So there was like some complications. Like it was more of a scare. We thought the baby was going to come, and I was out of town, so I couldn't really do much. So I was like, man. So we were trying to finish up one job, haul back into Houston to be here. And it turned out to be false alarm, but also a wake up call to be like, okay, like I need to slow down, and I've made a good enough money to kind of relax a bit. So now to me, it's trying to focus on the community, kind of get familiar with the people that I live with, are next door to me, and help the people out, because like I said, it's not always about the money. It's more of building relationships, and if a disaster happens here, a lot of things that are common here are hurricanes, tornadoes now, I guess. And what I've been seeing a lot is like people, trying to start up their generators, hooked up to a gas line or water lines in the freeze. So
every year something freezes.
Something freezes. Something busts. I know we had a few, like a tornado warning, a hurricane earlier last year. Yeah. And we had a lot of trees knock down gas meters. Right. So it was just a mess. So that's good. Now I'm trying to start my company, my business here in Elyson, focus on Katy area.
That's awesome. Right.
Really Elyson.
That's how I found you, actually, is one of our local Elyson residents was putting your name out there saying, look at the great job you did on these faucets and stuff. I was like, okay, cool, I gotta talk to that guy. So
Yeah.
it goes a long ways, right? Just having the local community support you in this phase of getting your business going with a young family, you know, getting all that. It's a lot. Right?
Yeah. So it's definitely kept me busy. Thankfully, it was a big scary step in my life to just, because I was working at a company last year or this year, at the beginning of this year, a little bit over about almost 2 months ago, I think. I quit the company I was working for. I was working with them for a year. It was a really good company, liked them, pretty good pay, but you know, I did not see myself doing that, you know, for long term,
And your family's worked in the plumbing space. It's in your blood. You've slept. Drank it all the time.
Everything.
Right? Ever since you were 14 or so.
So, you know, talk to them, tell them, hey, I'm just gonna do my own thing, you know, and they're pretty understanding. You know, they hated to see me go.
Sure.
So I ended up taking that leap of faith, you know, and deciding to start my own business. Had no plan in marketing or any advertising, so just, you know, cold turkey.
What do most plumbers do you find do to get started, right? I mean, the whole, you need to have leads coming in, you need to have referrals coming in, but you're starting.
Yes, so if you decide one day wake up and want to go from being, you know, working at a Target to being a plumber, it's gonna be a hard journey. But when you get to a point of, you know, gaining the experience, gaining the knowledge of it, and then you decide to start a plumbing business, I think that's in my opinion, the best approach. Because I've seen a lot of guys that have tried to start a plumbing company without having the experience or the knowledge of how plumbing is, you know. But if you're past the journey of having the knowledge and the experience,
a lot of people already know you're a plumber at that point.
Exactly. You have family and friends that you can start off with. Not only that, you will naturally, you know, build up a clientele. Even for me, I already had a few people that, you know, I sent them a message like, hey, I'm starting my own business, you know, yada yada, and they recommend their friends, or, oh, hey, I know this person. So little by little, you start off with small jobs. It might not be, you know, big money like a contracting or, you know, working as an employee for a plumbing company. But for me, you know, quit cold turkey, decided to just hop into this, starting the business. I had, you know, tools, equipment.
How does that work too in terms of tools and equipment and stuff like that? When you, maybe both sides, are you starting a business versus becoming a plumber, do you have to kind of buy your own tools and stuff so you can take good care of it, or?
So as the longer you're a plumber, the more expensive your tools get, because you're getting into more bigger jobs and more, you know, where you're going to need bigger equipment. So as an apprentice, you know, hand tools, you know, channel locks, screwdrivers, maybe a drill here or there. You're not really expected to get that because everybody understands you're new. But if you can get it, it'll go a long ways, you know. But as an apprentice, you know, hand tools are really the big thing. Probably maybe $1,000, $2,000 at most will get you set up for 2 years, you know. Being a tradesman, plumber, or even a journeyman, then you're getting into unclogging sewer lines, gas pipes, you know, so you have to get the machinery, you know, and stuff like that. The snaking machine to unclog drains. And those are pretty pricey. They'll run about $2,000, you know.
Do they? Wow.
Yeah, and then there's each big, but they pay for themselves. So it's well worth the investment. But I think if you have the knowledge, you have the experience, and if you don't have any tools at all, and you want to start up a business, you first off have to start off with a van. You know, you can't do a truck. But the van, you know, everything's enclosed, everything's dry, secured. But, you know, you start off with the van, you start off with a sewer machine. You know,
you have to build out the racks in the back to kind of store and organize everything.
A lot of, I think the biggest thing that I'm learning as well too right now is inventory. So in order to be efficient and be, you know, good at what you're doing, you have to have the right material, you know. So I can't, you know, you come in for a water leak, I show up to your house, don't have any of the fittings, it doesn't look that good, you know. So I have to have a fully stocked van, which it costs money too, to buy the material. And that's one of the risky things that, you know, you buy the material not knowing if you're gonna even
get the job.
Exactly. So you're investing already a big, amount on equipment, on material. And every call you get, you don't know exactly what you're dealing with. Even if they send you pictures and stuff like that, it can always be either a really fast job or a really big job. So
Sure.
that's
Gotta be ready.
yeah, gotta
Okay.
be ready. It's
And
expensive.
then you gotta, I imagine, maybe once a night or once a week, go through your inventory and just be like, hey, I need to order X number of
Yeah.
whatever, Y number of whatever, or
Yes.
schedule
So
that out.
yeah. So for me, I haven't been staying too busy, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Also because my approach right now is just keeping it really small because, like I said, I don't want to build a huge company that focuses on making money. It's
Okay.
more of a relationship. So if I
Yep.
can build a relationship with the homeowners, I can really educate them on what they need
Sure.
or really what they want,
Water softeners and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because most of the time, a lot of people that call plumbers, they're really calling them to just fix their issue. It's
I
not,
see.
to get you a brand new faucet, to get you, the bells and whistles of a shower head.
Sure,
So it's a lot of people that call me is just to fix little things here and there.
Yeah.
So I go out there. It might just be tightening a shower head or adjusting
Yeah,
something.
simple thing.
Simple thing. So while I'm
Make the
there,
most of that
yeah.
relationship and engagement.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I take advantage of that time that I'm there to kind of educate him. And sometimes some people, you just want you in and out.
Sure.
Some
Fine.
people do appreciate the help because you can give them also advice. I mean, throughout my years, I've learned a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
Preventative maintenance. I just did one of our neighbors flushed his water heater out, his tankless water heater out, and
Okay.
we were both kind of shocked as to how the junk that came out of his water heater.
Right.
So that was one thing that he learned, that you have to do it once a year, because if not, it'll
It builds up.
yeah, it builds up and shortens the lifespan of your water heater. So
Okay.
things like that, a lot of people don't know and don't really think about. Nobody thinks about,
Sure.
let me think about how to do maintenance on my water heater.
Yeah,
But your plumbing is a big deal. So is your electrical and stuff like that. But yeah.
Cool. Do you see like a big difference in maybe water quality from different mud districts, or
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
city or not in the city? And
Yeah.
what's it like out here in Elyson?
Oh man, there's a lot of. It's really the water here is very hard, and I didn't
I see.
believe it. I heard it from a lot of people,
Okay.
especially neighbors. They're like, "Oh, the water's really hard." I was like, I don't think it's just water to me, because
Yeah.
growing up, we drank from the faucet. We didn't, it wasn't
Sure.
that big of a deal. But my first clients here were a lot of water softeners. I installed them. They could tell the difference, overnight.
Right away.
Yeah, right away.
So all that scaly stuff that builds up on the showers, on my glasses, and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, the water softener
It's from the water. Yeah.
helps with. Is that the point?
Yeah. So the water softener will help you. It depends on what type of water softener, because that's the whole world in itself as well.
Okay.
With filters, it's really any type of filter you get. It'll do something, and it'll
Okay.
be for your advantage. But getting a water softener, a lot of these water softener units come with their own filters and the salt container where it softens the water, and then you
I
have
see.
the filter.
Yeah.
So it does go through a pretty good purification process.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can go all out with it, with getting like a UV light filter and all that.
Okay.
But yeah, the water's pretty hard out here, and I didn't believe it because my parents live. So Ellison's off of 529 and 99, but more on the west side.
Right.
My parents live on the other side of 99, towards going down Fry.
Okay.
And 20, as old as I am, 26 years in that house, and no issues with the calcium buildup or anything like that, or sediment.
But out here is different.
Yeah, out here is different. I see a lot of shower heads going out, a lot of faucets. On our shower, because I don't have a water softener, but on our shower glass, we have a lot of that, white stuff building up.
Things like dishwashers maybe crap out faster because of the
Oh
scaling?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
really?
So it not only helps you with like your hair and stuff like that, but it also helps your appliances as well, your
That's
water
interesting.
heaters too. So the other thing too, I've seen there's some sort of correlation, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. I haven't done my research 100%, but if you don't, from what I've seen, not doing proper maintenance to water softeners,
Yeah.
that salt will get through, and well, it still goes through, but will get into your water heater. If
I
you have
see.
a tank it'll get into the water heater and it will eat away at it.
The salt will.
Yeah, and then you have a leaking tank, which then you have to replace it. So
I see. So how
but
do you avoid that?
maintenance on the water heaters.
On the water heaters,
Yes.
just flushing them out, you mean?
Yes.
I see.
Yeah,
Got it.
so because if you think about it, kind of like up north in the States where you have in the snow, they spread out the salt. That salt jumps up to your car, and then you have a rusted out car.
Right.
Same with your water heaters.
Okay.
It's the best explanation I
So
give
you
people.
just got to drain it some.
Yeah,
and,
drain it,
keep
flush it
clear.
out, descale it,
Okay.
and stuff like that will help it, live longer.
Okay.
So, because my dad, he replaced the water heater, but it wasn't because the tank was rusted out. It was a valve that was leaking.
Right.
And him being a plumber, he was able to had access to a brand new water heater,
Okay.
free of cost. So,
Sure.
he got it, we replaced it quick,
Good.
and that was that. But it wasn't even because of the water. It was just a part that failed on it,
Okay.
And he could have easily replaced it for like $10.
Interesting. Okay.
So
Do you find here in Elyson, do most people filter the entire home, or do they just go to the kitchen sink, for example, and the fridge and filter those two?
A lot of people have been filtering their whole homes.
Yeah.
There has been some people that will buy bundles where it has like a reverse osmosis to get water from a little spout
Yep.
or spigot that goes on the countertop. I actually had a customer that we had relocated his old water softener and old, water filtration system under the kitchen sink from his old house.
Oh, really?
Here to that he
the
just
new
moved in.
one.
Yeah,
That's
so
interesting.
yeah, so it was a little bit crazy with the softener because it was older than the newer ones, but we made it work. Installed it. It works really good.
Good.
And but yeah, it's a lot of these. It's always better to filter out the whole house.
I see.
It is a little bit more pricey, but it's worth it, in the long run.
And if you have a pool and you don't want the pool to be filtered, but the rest of the house, is that doable, or is that kind of hard to structure out?
You can. What I've seen a lot is like people that build out their pools, they'll have the pool company tap into either a hose bib or a water line already. So if you do filter your water, your whole house, whatever you fill up the pool with, it's going to be filtered water.
Got it. Are
And
the hose bibs typically not filtered when you filter the whole house? They would be too, right?
they would be too. So
Yeah.
everything, so the whole house is the same
Yeah.
water. Yeah. When I tell my kids, I joke around because they'll be getting one from the fridge. I'll joke around. The same water you're drinking is the same one from the toilet, right? Because it's all coming from one place.
Yeah, sure.
And they're like, no. But I tell them, the filters in the fridge, they make a difference, obviously. But
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Yeah,
It's
no
awesome to
problem.
see new businesses get started here. If you do need something in the plumbing space, you know how to call. How do they get a hold of you, Angel?
As of now, we are on the Facebook Elyson group page, and my wife they actually told her to tone it down on the advertising, which is understanding. But normally you'll either see neighbors there promoting me, or you can text me or call me at 346-624-6044. If I don't answer, you can always shoot me a message.
Text.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
And if you need me there 8-10 o'clock, I'll go out there, or really early before you go to work too. I can head out. So
Great.
yeah, it's only a 5-10 minute drive at most.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great. If you see Angel out in the supermarket around town, make sure to say hey to him.
Yeah.
And if you need help with plumbing, you know who to call.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah,
Awesome.
until the next time, guys, we'll see you in the next interview. See you, Elyson.